Hello, everyone. Yay. We have 2 days. Well, at least I have 2 days before I am officially on a full week vacation. One of the perks for when you work at a university, you get the week off. So all next week I will be home sleeping not too late because I'm sure my daughter will not respect the fact that I get the week off. So she'll be up. So I'm happy to be able to be with you all today. This is part of my regular Lunch and Learn series on professional development. My name is Anide J, which was my maiden name, Jean Eustache. And I am a 15-year marketing professional, and I am also a certified professional and executive coach. And I coach people in the area of professional development and career development. So yesterday I was supposed to do a Lunch and Learn series on the art of the pivot, which is really about how to make a career transition. And I was looking forward to sharing that with you all, but I had connection issues, so I wasn't able to do that. So in January, since I do these Lunch and Learn series every 2 weeks, I'll do the art of the pivot. And I think it's important to share that because as we get into the new year, and as people just kind of rethink what they want to do with their lives, there is a strategy for how you make a career pivot, and I want to be able to share that with you all because I've been able to do that to some extent in my career. But today I wanted to share about knowing your worth. Yesterday, E! News anchor Catt Sadler resigned from her position after 10 years with the network. And she resigned from her position after finding out that she was paid half of what her male co-host was paid. And, she was up for contract renewal at the time. And when she did find out about the pay gap, her and her team, which I'm guessing are her lawyers, went to E-Network during the contract renegotiations and presented to them and requested a deal to close the salary gap. And she said after a lot of back and forth, her request was denied, and she decided to resign from her position as anchor of two of their shows on the E! Network. And, I read that and I'm like, wow, what a great way to really confirm knowing your worth. And so as I speak about knowing your worth today, I want to let you know in your professional and in your personal life, you set the tone for how people treat you. You set the tone for who you allow in your life, and you set the tone for what you accept. And that goes to pay, that goes to your professional growth. You set the tone. People don't determine your worth. I think that sometimes we buy into the lie that people give us value. People don't give you value. You give yourself value. If you do not know your value, if you do not know your worth, you will say yes to the wrong opportunities. Every opportunity that comes your way, you'll think that it's some heaven sent gift, and it's not. And sometimes we say yes to the wrong opportunities because we're in a place of desperation. And I tend to see that a lot in people's professional lives, right? If you do not know your worth, you will undermine your long-term earning potential as a professional. If you do not know your worth, you will undermine your professional growth overall. And right now we're talking about it from a professional standpoint. So I won't even blame an employer if you're compensated less than your worth. That's on you, right? That's on you because an employer is looking out for their best interest. If they're able to get you for half of what you're worth and you say yes to it, not shame on them, but sometimes shame on you. And I know life circumstances sometimes can cause us to really just make decisions based on just circumstances. You have bills to pay, whatever it may be. But sometimes saying yes to those opportunities really set you back like 10 steps behind, and then you have to play catch up again, right? And the key thing is that when you don't know your worth, it leaves you frustrated, right? It leaves you frustrated because wherever you're at in your career, you will always feel as if you are not tapping into your true potential, right? You'll feel frustrated at your employers. You'll be frustrated at the level of projects you're working with. You'll be frustrated at coworkers you're working with that you feel just aren't up to par, or people who are in positions that are higher than you that you know more than. You'll be frustrated because you didn't know your worth. You took a position that wasn't in line with what you needed to do, and you're frustrated personally. You're frustrated in the fact that you're not growing at your skill level. You're frustrated on so many different levels, right? And a lot of people settle for less, and they accept the cards that are dealt to them because really when you dig deep down inside, you don't believe you deserve more. maybe you're afraid that you know, going for that newer opportunity may, you know, some imposter syndrome thing may show up. You just feel like you're not ready, or you're afraid you take an offer or something that's less than your worth because you're afraid that that's the best offer you'll get. And you should not feel that way. You need to know your worth. So when I speak about knowing your worth in terms of being a professional working in any industry you're working in, the first thing to know on what your worth entails on a professional level is what you have to put value to your skills. What do you bring to the table? Do a skills inventory. What do I know how to do? What do I bring to an employer that someone else, they may be able to bring, but they won't bring it the same way that I do, right? You know, second thing is, what experience level do you bring? There's the skill level. Like, there's some people that are naturally great organizers. There's some people that are just naturally great at building teams. There are some people that are naturally great at just organizing and training and leading on presentations. Don't take those skills that you take so naturally for granted, right? And then the second thing is, what experience do you bring to the table? The years of experience you have in the field is something that you add worth to. There's a difference between someone being in a certain career for 3 or 4 years versus being in it for 9 to 10 years. There's a skill level that you should have, you know, have gained after 10 years. There are new things that you may have, just a maturity that you may have that someone else may not have. So what experience do you bring to the table? The number of years you bring to the table is important in knowing your worth. Your education level, certifications that you have, all of that is also important. And sometimes, you know, we go to school, and it's interesting. I was having a conversation with my girlfriends probably 4 weeks ago, my college girlfriends, and we shared that maybe the biggest lie that we were fed is that college equals success, because it really doesn't. But getting a master's level degree, depending on what industry you're in, does mean that you may be able to get more money. It may not mean you may get it at the current place that you're at, but sometimes it may mean jumping ship and going to a new company where they'll value your degree more, right? So know what your worth entails. Research your salary. Research shows that people who stay at one company for a long period of time make less money over the course of their lifetime than people who switch jobs. And I'll get to that, right? I'm not a big proponent of someone changing jobs every year. That doesn't look good, but we're going to discuss that in a few minutes, right? So research what the median salary for someone at your position level, for someone with your years of experience, and someone with your degree has, right? I like using Glassdoor, but a lot of recruiters and people that I read on say, hey, don't trust Glassdoor.com because people may, you know, add inflated salaries. And, you know, I'm a little about that. For me, like, I use Glassdoor.com. I put in my salaries, and I was honest about what I made. And when I looked at what other people in the company that I made, it was right along the right median. So I'd say use websites like Glassdoor.com, use Salary.com, do a Google search for, you know, if you're looking to be a director of marketing, put a director of marketing in New York, look at what the median salary is, put in the company you're currently working with, and kind of just get a feel or lay of the land for what the range looks like. It may not be like a direct science, like this is exactly what it is, but to me, at least it gives you a range. And if you look at what the median salary is and look at what you're making and see that there's a gap with where you're working with, you're getting underpaid, right? And if you're looking for new work, at least it gives you a benchmark for something to look into for when you are interviewing. So if you're interviewing for a position and an employer comes 20,000 below what you know your median is, then you have some room to negotiate, because you can come at them with like, these are the skills I bring to the table. These are my years of experience. This is my education level for this part of the country, or this part of, you know, this area. This is the median cost, and I'm asking if you can meet me here, or the range I'm looking for is here, right? So research salary. And then the final thing with knowing your worth is you have to be willing to walk away when someone does not meet what you know what your worth is. And I'll share an example of me. I'm doing contract work now, probably several months ago, I'm in another contract assignment right now, but I was in a contract assignment and there was an opportunity for a full-time position. And, you know, it was good. I was like, okay, great. But in looking at the opportunity that the full-time position offered, it was making half of the salary that I made when I was working a full-time job. And I was just like, that's not going to work. But the higher up, there was a higher level supervisor who basically thought, hey, did you speak to Anide about this opportunity that's available? And my direct supervisor said I did, but she did share that the salary is below what she'd be willing to accept. And this person basically said, well, it's a job. Why wouldn't she take it? And my supervisor then went on to say she has an MBA. That's why she wouldn't take it, right? And it kind of irritated me when I heard that he would even think that me taking an opportunity, making half of what I made, was a good opportunity for me, because in my head, I'm thinking, hey, if you're at this level and someone hired you for a position making half of what you make before, what does that show about what you feel about my worth and my skill and what I bring to the table, right? So I had to be willing to walk away from that, because at the end of the day, I knew my worth. And then the worst part is, in me working at a contract position at this other place, I was working half the hours that this full-time position would make, and I was making the max level salary that they were even willing to offer this person. So I'm like, why would I even, regardless of the fact, hey, I can get benefits, but I'm making the same amount of money working less hours than I would if I took this position full-time, right? So this is about knowing my worth. Maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago, if this opportunity had presented itself, I'd be like, oh, you know what? It's an opportunity to not be in the gig world anymore. I cannot stop doing contract assignments. I have more stability. But now that I have more experience in the workforce and in what it means to grow my professional brand, I know that this was just a bad decision for me. And so I walked away from it, right? Because I knew a better opportunity would come along, right? So it's hard and it's a scary decision to make when you seem like you have an opportunity at hand that just brings stability, right? And a lot of us, when we're looking at work, we look for stability, we look for career growth, we look for increases in salary, but sometimes you make a decision that in the long run will be the worst decision you've ever made, even if it makes sense. It doesn't make sense salary-wise, but it just makes sense in that, hey, I was doing a contract position or I wasn't working at all and this position came along. But trust me, saying no to a position or an opportunity that does not value you or does not value the worth that you bring to the table in the long run, saying no is the best decision that you'll make. Trust me, right? Sometimes we feed into a lie that if we don't accept an opportunity that comes along, that we may not be presented with another. And you will. A better opportunity will come along. You will sell your value to a company and they will see the value that you bring to the table and they will meet you with where you're at. And sometimes there's wiggle room. Sometimes, let's say you may be asking for $10 and they're like, look, we can offer you $9 and within a year you can get a merit increase. In instances like that, weigh the cost, right? Do the math. That works. You're looking for work. It's $1 off within a year based on, your 6-month review. And when they do merit increases, they'll be able to increase the salary to what you wanted. That's something where you weigh the cost and you look at the decisions. And that's a good decision to make. I'll take it. I can do 9 and know within a year my salary will be increased, right? The other thing is that if you're in your current role, let's say knowing your worth, we're talking about knowing your worth. Let's say after you do everything I told you to do, you do your skills inventory, you look at your experience that you bring to the table, the number of years you worked in your industry, you look at the education level, maybe you decide like, hey, let me get a certification because it would help me in growing my career opportunities, right? You do your research and you realize that you are significantly underpaid or that you are not even making close to what the median in your industry is. Have a talk with your manager and just present to him or her like, this is everything that I've done while I've been here. These are my successes. This is what I've done. And it's come to light to me that I'm making less than what the median is for my industry. And I'd like to request based on just what I've done, business size, what I've brought to the company, whatever it may be, I'd like to request a raise. And see what he or she says, because sometimes they may be able to meet you where you're at and say yes, and sometimes they may say no, right? So that's the first thing. So you make your case. If there's not an opportunity for a salary increase, or there's not an opportunity at your level for a salary increase, and maybe there's not an opportunity for growth for you to, like, let's say, go to the next level at the company that you're at so that you can receive a salary increase, I definitely say start planning your exit strategy. The Department of Labor did research, and in the research they shared, they said that most professionals now are at their jobs for about 4.5 years before they move on to a new opportunity. And for millennials, that's even less. For millennials, every 2.2 years or 2.5 years, they are moving on to a new opportunity, right? And most people are leaving for a new opportunity because they get a higher salary at another place, and they know at their current place of employment that won't be met. Some people leave because at their current place of employment there's not an opportunity to grow to the next level in their career. Maybe they're a coordinator and they want to go to manager level, and there isn't that opportunity. So they find work where they're going, where they're basically going up the corporate ladder. So they leave to go to another opportunity, right? So you have to think about that too. And knowing your worth is not only about, sharing your value, making sure that you're being compensated appropriately for your career level and your years of experience, but also knowing that if there's not an opportunity that resides in where you're currently at, it's time to start looking around at other opportunities that can get you to the salary level that you do want, and that can also help you to move up the trajectory of your career in terms of your professional development, right? So that's everything that I wanted to share with you about knowing your worth. Again, no one will determine your worth but you. If someone can get you for peanuts and you're worth more than that, they'll do that. Anyone will pay peanuts for someone who has great skills and who's willing to do that. And sometimes we take peanuts, again, because we don't believe we deserve more. Sometimes we get peanuts because we don't do our research. Do your research. Google is at your disposal. You always have to test information, but do your research. Don't say yes to the first offer that's presented to you. Know your worth, because when you know your worth, you will confidently be able to say no to opportunities that do not align with what you know you are worth. All right. So when we looked at Catt Sadler again, so Catt Sadler, like I said, she was an anchor for E! News. She worked for them for 10 years, and she found out that she was making half the salary of her male co-host. Again, contract negotiations were up, so I guess she and her lawyers went to the network and they were negotiating back and forth. And what she asked for was something fairly simple. She said, look, I want to renew my contract, but I want to close the salary gap so that I'm making what my male counterpart is making, which is more than fair. But she said that after negotiating back and forth, E! News denied her request for a salary increase. And of course, E! News is saying something else, but hey, somewhere in the middle is the truth, right? So she decided to leave, and she is a single mother of 2 young girls, right? Of 2 children. So I thought it was interesting that, and like I shared, you have to be willing to walk away sometimes. Sometimes we're not willing to walk away. And what you do when you don't walk away is that you undermine your long-term earning potential. You have to be, even if you're not able to walk away as quickly as she did, if you go to your employer, they're not willing to meet you to have you at least make the median of what someone with your experience level should be making, start preparing your exit strategy. Start updating your resume, start putting feelers out there, start reaching out to recruiters, start reaching out to old coworkers who have moved on and let them know, hey, I'm looking for new work opportunity. If you know anyone that's hiring, keep me in mind. Get your resume updated, get your LinkedIn profile updated, get your short bio updated, get a new picture on LinkedIn, do what you need to do so that you set yourself up to begin to move to a newer opportunity and better opportunity for you. So I want to leave you with this. Catt, after she resigned, she shared this quote on Twitter, right? The quote she shared was, "Know your worth." She wrote, "How can I accept an offer that shows that they do not value my contributions and parallel dedication all these years? How can I not echo the actions of my heroes and stand for what is right, no matter what the cost? How can I remain silent when my rights under the law have been violated," right? So this is what she's saying, but what I loved about her decision is because she knew her worth, she walked away. So I encourage you all in the new year, know your worth. If you're looking for new work, know your worth. If you're at a current work, job or place of employment that's really not valuing your contributions by showing it to you in your paycheck, not with a certificate of appreciation only, you want to see it in your paycheck, then begin to develop your exit strategy. So I hope that today's Lunch and Learn